Ready to get started? Welcome everybody to our chat GTP session, Accessibility in Higher Ed, AI in Higher Education. This will just be a table talk. And Julie and Emmy and Abby are here to share with us what they shared last time. They'll do a little review and take any questions that you'll have from the last presentation. Go ahead, Julie.
Thanks, Leah. Welcome, everybody. So we've got a couple reminders about this session. So we're glad you could make it. This is really an opportunity for you all to ask questions and reflect on our FDI talk. So whether you were there or you could watch the recording, we want to hear from you and brainstorm together. And our topic again is AI in the context of accessibility. So I wanted to just review and remind you a little bit because it's been a while since our full presentation. So I'll just review. Abby and Emmy, you guys can hop in if I miss a key concept, but we did spend some time, Abby spent time reviewing accessibility, and the key concept there was that accessibility means reducing or removing barriers without lowering standards. And so that was one of the foundational ideas that is a framework for understanding the rest of our conversation. And so we spent some time with two crafted ACU learner personas to go over a few AI tools. And so we demonstrated Goblin tools. Emmy showed us the Judge and the Formalizer in particular. We looked at Gemini, Perplexity, and Notebook LM. And the main barriers that we were addressing or practicing together were to help a student with organizing chaotic thoughts, or helping a student increase their tone awareness, writing an email or writing a response to someone, and helping them with their tone. And then Abby guided us through to think about how these tools could help schedule for a student, help them manage their time, help them prioritize their time, and then even break down specific tasks in a way that is more step by step for someone to follow through. I also when I went over Perplexity, the goal was to fortify or strengthen someone's reading comprehension. Notebook LM is also a tool that has a lot of capacity for breaking down complex readings, complex ideas into these various different modalities like mind maps, podcasts, and videos, along with the more traditional sort of AI chat features. So that's just us in a nutshell. Abby or Emmy, do you want to add anything from reminders from our session?
I think you covered
I think you were very thorough.
Great. All right, so we're just going to open it up. If you want to type questions in the chat, type your thoughts, go for it. We also wanted to put these questions on the slide to help get us started, maybe. So take a moment, read over these questions. If someone in the room wants to open up with a thought or a question or a response to this, I'm just going to leave it open now.
I'm interested in knowing from you ladies in the Writing Center, well, and Abby, you too, what are the common barriers that you're seeing right now with students? Are there like a top one or two that you're seeing? Maybe it's reading literacy or I don't know. What are you typically seeing?
I can tell you that our students have a range of challenges that they are working with. Actually, yesterday I was reflecting on one thing that these tools are designed to help with is anxiety and helping them feel like they're not overwhelmed or overly, oppressed by everything that they're trying to do. And we just have so many even our students who are neurotypical are just so anxiety ridden. Um, it feels like every session that I'm having, even if it's asynchronous, is also a therapy session because they're so worried about getting their work done, doing it to a certain level. And if they have a learning difference, that makes it even worse. I'm sorry, my cat's visiting. So I would honestly put anxiety at the top of the list. But also they have issues with organization in terms of navigating the technology along with the tools. So I know we are giving them more technology to use as we're putting this out there, but it's like if we can teach them how to use one or two tools effectively, even though they have to get over that initial barrier of learning how to use it, I think in the long run it would be helpful. Um, but there's also just a lot of the organizational issues also translate into their writing. So Dina, unfortunately, I don't think there's one or two top things. I think there's a big mishmash of challenges that all flow together.
And I would just add, I think time management is a barrier, or just time is a barrier for a lot of students, right?
Yes.
I often talk about like we're trying to have a conversation about time management, but oftentimes like the student doesn't even have time to manage, right? Like their lives are just, if you think about our students that are, taking classes and have 3 kids and are working a full-time job, like by the time they get home at night, they maybe have an hour and a half to give to school, right? And so that can be coupled with things like, actual executive functioning challenges. That time management can be a pretty big barrier for them.
I think that the time management crosses over into organization and anxiety. It just all lumps together. Um,
Yeah, great way to capture, I think, what we're seeing. And then, you know, I'm not sure if you mentioned ADHD or ADD, but that definitely is one of the top ones that students talk about with us as well when they talk about their own personal challenges. So I see that coming up from the Writing Center too.
That is one thing that I work with my students, especially the ones that I'm chairing in their doctoral papers, is how to manage their time to write. And when I get them to chunk pieces, even of a chapter of their project, if I get them to chunk and then get up and take a break and come back and then come back, and I tell them never to spend more than 40 minutes in front of the computer writing. Because if they do, then they end up having diarrhea and vomit all over the paper. And that's the pediatric nurse coming out in me. But and it's interesting that when I tell them to do that, and they do, and then when they do it, I'm like, do you see how much better your writing is? Do you see how much more focused it is, and how you're staying on target? You're giving me a thesis sentence, you're giving me a summary, you're giving me cited information in the body of the paragraphs. Like, and they're just like, I never realized. I'm like, yeah, you start off okay, and then you get tired and you're giving me confusion and diarrhea all over the paper. And I'm like, so I find that when I tell my students to do that, they do. It's amazing when I get them to do that. I literally have I have them fly through writing their proposals or their final manuscripts when they do it that way. So it's helpful.
I think that's a really good strategy, Dr. Ryan. And one way that we've seen AI kind of come alongside that is sometimes students don't know how to chunk something or how to break it up. They're unable to go from the big picture to those kind of step-by-step pieces. And that's what, ChatGPT has helped students be able to do, right? Like, give me some steps in this assignment. So, okay, if I have an hour, I know that I can do maybe 25-minute blocks, right? I can do 25 minutes and focus on step one, and then I'm going to take a 5-minute break and come back and try to do 25 more minutes, either if I haven't finished step one or move on to step two. So I think there's some ways that can overlay um, these AI tools, and that's a really, really helpful strategy.
Yeah, I have to teach them how to chunk and how to look at something. So, it, but once they get it, I'll tell you, I was literally just with a student yesterday and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have so few edits to your paper. And just the one section of the chapter that he gave me, it's like, do you realize how much quicker our meetings are going now because you're chunking? And so it's great.
Yeah, for our students who, for whatever reason, are missing out on that one-on-one time with a professor like you, Dr. Ryan, an AI tool could be one of those ways that we try and connect them to that skill of chunking in this example so that they can start to do that over time. They can learn that and get to that learning process or get to that writing process that's behind the barrier. I want to mention that we've got some good questions in the chat. So,
I did have to want to add to that, Julie, that was probably
hey,
me pestering you with a bunch of questions in the chat, but it builds off what I put in the chat and what was just shared to address that first question, what barriers do students or you as a learner face in the learning process with AI and the resources that are available to them and the support? AI is advancing so fast that things just from a month ago are already outdated. And uh, part of that barrier I see is there's resource overwhelm. There's too many, and how to sort and understand what is helpful, what's a distraction, how to stay focused, which is why I'm asking, is there a comprehensive list where their ACU credentials give them access to so we can help them understand, if you feel your thoughts are all over the place, try Goblin, go here. If you need this support, try Notebook, go here, where we can try and simplify the process for them so it's not resource overwhelmed, because it can feel like that to me. Even while I'm navigating tools with AI and realizing, oh, I didn't even know this one existed, especially for me, I'm only working with doctoral students, and just them pulling together their literature review with so many sources, and some of them hallucinogenic sources and ghost references and those that are real, and how to determine, and sort and classify. I think those are the barriers, is more resource overwhelm as opposed to under resource and knowing how to navigate that jungle of resources that are available to them.
such a good question, Dr. McLeod. And I could see other people nodding their heads vigorously because, yes, it's overwhelming. And I just want to hop in and say, and then Emmy and Abby, you might have more thoughts. This is a little bit counter maybe to our topic, but if there is an instance where students are really needing help, pointing them to the Writing Center and to the library first, and to Abby in the Wellness Center, like pointing them to us first. Those are the institutional resources that they have. And we can help them finding tools that fit their needs rather than them having to figure out what tool do I use. Like, I think that would be a good way to funnel students towards getting human support first when they're needing that. And so that can help combat the overwhelm. And Dr. McLeod, you're already doing that. So thanks for pointing your students to the Writing Center. What else would you two or anyone else like to add?
I do think the human element can be really helpful, but I do like the idea of trying to think about, is there somewhere that, students could find resources? I think part of the challenge of that is, like, do we as an institution have a firm stance on which ones we like and don't? That could be part of this question, but I do think the work we're doing with students in wellness, like even right before this, I met with a student one-on-one, and we are trying to take a more holistic approach to figure out, okay, what what are you struggling with? I spend a lot of time assessing, what's going on, what are your barriers, what are you struggling with? Like today, I just found out this student I was talking to is copying the entire textbook down by hand. And I'm like, well, that's a problem. That's gonna make you turn in some assignments late if you're copying 60 pages by hand before you start on an assignment. So that gives me the ability to say, hey, there's a couple of tools out there that could potentially help with your reading comprehension. What is it for you about writing it down that's making it click for you? And let's think about, would a video format be more helpful to you? If you had a summary, do you think that would make you more effective, right? So it gives us the opportunity to really get at some of the root things and come up with a holistic plan that says, hey, we're going to check in once a week. Between now and next Tuesday, here's what I want you to try. And I want you to be ready to talk about, does this feel like it's working for you? And if it is, why? If it's not, what's going on there, so we can keep going. So I do think that human support can be helpful to combat that overwhelm, and again, make sure we're kind of wrapping around as holistically as we can to kind of assess and treat the bigger picture.
I think
Dina just made a great point that we do have oh, did Julie say that already? Julie already posted that Gemini is our preferred chat or AI engine because it's linked to our ACU email and it doesn't save our work in it. But Julie also pointed out that Perplexity AI allows you to opt out of that if you log into it without having to pay for a premium price. And Perplexity AI is actually the best in terms of if you're looking for sources, it's least likely to hallucinate. It also writes with a very nice tone, I have found, compared to the other ones. It's not as, how can I say this, obsequious or pandering as some of the other ones are when they communicate with you, and they're very effusive with their praise. Gemini and ChatGPT are. Perplexity AI doesn't have that angle to it. So it may avoid giving students positive reinforcement when things are not unnecessary positive reinforcement. Let's put it that way, to make them think they're doing a great job when something's missing. So this goes back to Dr. McLeod's comment that everything is so different and so overwhelming, and it's hard to sort out which tool is good for what thing. Goblin doesn't require login. It's accessible to the public for free. You just have to go to the website and click on the one that you want to use.
Thank you.
And I just want to point out, since we did get into a little bit of the topic of hallucinations there, the librarians are so amazing, and the Writing Center and library have been doing some collaborative webinars that are student facing. We're planning a part 3 to this series of some AI basics and AI literacy, and we're just exploring still. I mean, unfortunately, that means the overwhelm is ever present because nobody has the definitive list or policy or rules at this point in time. So as we're navigating it alongside students, we're showing them what's possible while also showing them the limitations. And I won't speak for the librarians, but one of the topics is hallucinations and, is it possible to discover articles using AI? That's a whole conversation. I think that's outside of the scope of this conversation, but we're having it, and I think it's really important. So that's one of the limitations to be aware of, our boundaries when it comes to AI use with students.
I think that brings us back to the area of the human focus, though. We talked about how the human focus or human element can be an initial touch point to help you learn how to use these things. But a big aspect of being human is being responsible for what we're doing. So part of the training or learning process is that we have to learn to use our good critical thinking skills and our conscientiousness to check every source, because it is possible, if you receive a source from AI, to check to see if it's real. You can Google it and find out if it's real most of the time. So it brings us back to focusing on people.
I'm curious to hear if there are AI tools, either the ones that we've touched on already or other ones we might not have talked about, that folks are hearing about or are using themselves, that you think this is a unique way to remove a learning barrier for someone. Are there any other ideas or thoughts out there, things you're coming across?
Hi, this is Suzanne. I also teach for a different school, and they use AI Copilot, and they did the same thing ACU did with Gemini. Everything that goes to AI Copilot at that school is not saved and does not go out to the general population of users, but I find it very helpful also.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, the piece about protecting the privacy of an institution and what the student puts in is really important.
I'm sorry, I have just one more question. I remember when we talked about perplexity on the last one, and I'm just trying to put together a list of resources for my students in real time. Is that one also free, or can they
Yes.
use their ACU credentials?
Yes, both.
Okay.
They can log in with, that's how I logged in to Perplexity. I signed in with my ACU Google account,
Okay.
and it's free. And then from there, in our last FDI slide deck, there are specific language, but if you go into the settings, there's one setting that you can toggle off where it will not save or use the data you input to train the AI. So it's a really simple setting that you just click in Perplexity. And I think going back to the slide deck, if you need that language, it's there for you as well. Thanks, Dr. McLeod.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Julie, I have a question for you. I know if a student wanted to use like ChatGPT or Perplexity or any of the other ones, like for the free accounts, there's a limited amount of things that you could upload. Since we've got an agreement with Gemini, are they able to use that a little bit more in a robust manner? Like I know for like ChatGPT, let's say if a student wanted to upload a couple scholarly articles and say, hey, could you summarize these for me, or can you interpret these for me? They're only going to get so many on the free version. Do they get more since we've got kind of an agreement with Gemini?
That is a really good question. And I'm pulling up that IT article that I posted. I'm not sure it's answered quickly by that IT article. I would have to look into that, and if maybe someone else knows.
All right, no problem. Thank you.
Something It does mention there are different models of
It
Gemini.
says we have access to the Pro version and Gemini for Education, which means there shouldn't be limitations on it. But you're right, with like Perplexity AI, you can do 3 queries with an upload within a certain period of time, which limits its usefulness if you have a lot of stuff that you need to be reading within a 24-hour period. But there shouldn't be those limitations with Gemini if we have access to the premium version, as it says there.
Great, thank you.
And thank you for that clarification as well. I think it was Brandon who brought that up. That's very helpful to know as I'm trying to support students.
Any other questions or thoughts you'd like to ask Julie or Emmy or? Thank y'all so much for doing this. This is really good information. Great questions, guys.
I'm curious. I just questions are coming up for me. But did anyone get a chance to listen to the Notebook LM podcast that Abby put in our last slide deck? We didn't have time to go over it together, but if anyone did, I'm curious what you thought about it. I think I got to listen to part of it, so I can answer the question. Like I love listening. I'm a podcast listener. I listen to so many podcasts. I used to a lot more when I would drive places, but now working from home, I just do it while I'm eating lunch. But it's interesting because of how good it was. I was really impressed. And as someone who really likes podcasts, it fits right in with an easy way to comprehend and get information. So I was impressed. There was also the kind of uncanny, unsettling nature to knowing that it's not a real conversation with humans. But I don't know that that really, eliminates or cancels out the way that it really is an interesting or engaging way to come at your learning process of getting new information. So I was glad Abby shared that because that was the first time I'd listened to an AI podcast on on a tool like that.
I think the beauty of Notebook LM is you can put all your materials in it, and that is the one tool that really will create output that fits anyone where they are. If you are visual like me, and I mean, I can't listen to audio and retain it. It just goes right through my head. So I need to be able to read it on paper. So it can make that for me. It can make a conversational podcast for Julie. It could make a video for my son because he needs to have the visuals and the audio and have it in an entertaining way. And it really does a good job of synthesizing. It borders on disturbing, as Julie just said, because how is it doing such a good job at what it's doing? So that brings in that wariness of AI a little bit. But in terms of just accessibility, it is a top tool.
Any other questions? Thank you, ladies. It's really good.